Does anyone remember the TV commercial where two guys that are walking around the opposite sides of a corner suddenly crash into each other? Well, I don't, because I wasn't born yet. But my parents tell me that one was carrying chocolate and the other peanut butter. They were very angry. "You got peanut butter on my chocolate!" "Well, you got chocolate on my peanut butter." But then they tasted it, and it was wonderful. And so the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup was born out of human clumsiness. Okay, so maybe that's not exactly how it happened, but it does illustrate the point I'm trying to make. Making an error isn't the negative act we perceive it to be. It's the foundation of progress. Some of the greatest civilization-changing advances were due to mistakes and accidents. For instance, take the pacemaker. In 1956, Wilson Greatbatch was working on a heart rhythm recording device. As he was assembling it, he carelessly stuck his hand into his toolbox and pulled out the absolutely wrong resistor. But he installed it anyway without checking it. But instead of being greeted by the smell of a burning circuit, he heard the rhythmic sound of a human heart. This got him thinking, could an electrical circuit that simulated the rhythm of a heart be used to stimulate a heart? Could it change an erratic heartbeat back to its normal beat? And just like that, the pacemaker was born. What started off as an act of carelessness by a man who was just tired went on to increase life expectancy for millions of people. And now, over 500,000 devices are implanted each year because of one man's error. Greatbatch is a great example of what I like to call progress through error. And there are many more where that came from. Another accident changed the way people travel forever. I'm talking about the common rubber tire, or more specifically, the stuff that it's made from, vulcanized rubber. Now, rubber was already extremely popular in the 1830s, but there was a problem. It would freeze in the winter and melt in the summer, as it could not withstand extreme temperatures. Charles Goodyear wanted to overcome these problems, so he started experimenting with the material. He decided to put sulfur in the rubber to act as a drying agent. He got so excited with this idea that the rubber flew out of his hands and into a hot stove. Expecting his great sulfur experiment was in ruins, he pulled the rubber out of the fire. But instead of melting it, the rubber had just charred it black and made it stretchy. And so, after further testing, Goodyear realized that the rubber had become far more resistant to temperature. I think we all know what Goodyear went on to do after that. Now, vulcanized rubber is used in all tires everywhere and has changed the way people travel forever. Again, progress through error. And now for one of my personal favorites. In 1968, Spencer Silver was working on a super strong glue which would act as an adhesive for major projects. However, he failed miserably and came up with the exact opposite. He created an adhesive that would stick to objects, but could be lifted off so easily that it was essentially useless. But one of his colleagues in the labs had a bright idea that made lemonade out of Spencer's lemons. He decided that if you put the glue on the edge of a piece of paper, it could act as a great bookmark which could be removed easily without damaging the page. And thus, the Post-it note was born and became an iconic part of the American office. So, what do all these inventions have in common? They all helped human civilization advance in some way due to some unplanned accident or error on the part of an inventor. But some inventors were far smarter. They planned to make mistakes. And they knew they had to make many of them to succeed. Do you know how many times Thomas Edison failed at the light bulb before actually getting it right? 1,000 times. Yes, 1,000 times. And yet each failed attempt to keep that thin ribbon of metal from bursting into flames filled him with determination. He knew he was one step closer to reaching his goal. There were only so many ways of making a light bulb, and eventually he was going to find the one that made the light bulb. A reporter once asked him what it felt like to fail 1,000 times. He replied, "I didn't fail 1,000 times. The light bulb was an invention with 1,000 steps." And it's not just civilization that progresses through error. Error is also a critically important part of personal progress. And there's great science behind this. I recently read a book called The Talent Code by Daniel Coyle. The book presents a theory that mistakes are helpful, even necessary because they make us smarter. All skill and ability is located in the brain, so our brain tells our muscles what to do and when to do it. Every time we make a mistake, a substance called myelin wraps around the nerve fibers in our brain, creating a form of insulation. This insulation helps to increase our strength, speed, and accuracy. The bigger the mistake, the more myelin is formed, and the better we become. So you would think then that making a mistake, either purposely or by accident, would be seen as a positive thing, right? Absolutely not. Our society hates error. Mistakes while learning a skill are called clumsiness. Difficulty comprehending knowledge is called stupidity. What our society does value is perfection, and it wants it now. If you are an adult and you do not achieve this, someone is bound to call you a failure. This attitude is not only wrong on a personal level, but it works against our progress as a civilization. So how then should we approach mistakes? We should remind ourselves that practicing and taking risks are absolutely necessary to improving a skill and developing a talent. But we should think of them as an investment of the future. They may not be fun when they happen now, but they may lead to something wonderful that we did not expect. Mistakes also teach us valuable life lessons. By accepting that mistakes are an unavoidable part of life, we gain confidence, courage, and self-acceptance. This in turn helps us live a happier life. If we believe this, our fear of making mistakes will lessen, and we will progress far more rapidly. I have a personal perspective on this. When I was little, I had 2 left feet when it came to soccer. I didn't care. I loved the game. And by the time I was 7, I really wanted to play competitively. My parents asked my training coach if we should apply, and he responded, "Not to waste your money." But I still wanted to play. I could see that I was nowhere near as good as the other players, but I was determined to succeed. So I hunkered down and made many, 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 many mistakes over the next 3 years. But my brain and muscles learned each and every time, so much so that I am now honored to play on the #1 team in Ontario at my age level. So, in summary, free yourself. Cast away the shame that is thrown upon you by others whenever you make a mistake. You are embracing progress. They are denying it. John Maxwell, a famous author, said it best. The greatest mistake we make is living in constant fear that we will make one. Thank you.